Tim, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it. Honored to be here.
Man, you are keeping Rick's seat warm. I'm telling you, we are definitely, like I said in a previous podcast, going to put a third chair in here. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Would love to be here and certainly miss Rick, but I'm glad to be here to talk with you.
Well, thank you. You know, I wrote an article that I'd like to make part of today's podcast. And that was an article about with technology, with the advancements in medicine, human trial and error, that to be your best, we're living in a great time because it's never been easier than now. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I read that article. It was great. It got me really thinking that it really has never been easier than now to be at your best with all the things that are at your fingertips and all the technology. But also, as you and I talked, it's also never been harder too.
Right. Yeah. And you pointed that out to me, and as I thought about it, it's like, you're right, you know? So I thought for our listeners and the audience out there that we would have a show about those two things, about it never being easier to be your best, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, it's never been harder to be your best as well.
Yes.
So what are some ways in which, you know, with technology and the day and age that we live in now, that it's really made life easier for you to be your best?
I don't really think about it that way, but after you wrote the article, we started talking about it. A lot of things that we do, for example, the podcast and YouTube and things we have access to, are right at your fingertips, and they're free. In most cases, they don't cost anything to get access to the greatest minds in the world at any moment in time. And it makes me think about even back, 10, 15 years ago, having to drive down to the tape cassette store, rent out a tape, take it with you. You've got one or two tapes you can listen to on a loop, and they have to go back and return that, versus getting things at your fingertips to be able to feed your mind makes it super easy. What do you do?
Well, back to that point really quick before I answer the question. Our friend Billy told me about how committed you were back in college as a freshman, that he was really blown away and inspired by you. And that was, you were having the Tony Robbins cassette tapes rolling as a freshman, at age 19. You were doing it back then, and you probably paid a pretty penny back then for all those cassettes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so for me too, the same thing. I begin my mornings every morning with podcasts, because that negative chatter is right there as soon as my feet hit the floor, is talking to me about my age, what I got to do today, you're not where you should be in life, it's going on. And so I need to put something positive into my mental space. And so the podcast, and Wayne Dyer, who is one of my favorite teachers, if I were to go to one of his seminars, there would be airfare, there would be the seminar cost, hotel, lodging, mind you, completely worth it. 100% worth it. But every morning, I got Wayne Dyer at my fingertips with YouTube and everything else. So that's one of the ways that's made it incredibly easy. With Tara Block, Wayne Dyer, our man Brian Johnson for Optimizing Your Life, Tony Robbins, Robin Sharma, like all the teachers are right there, Les Brown. And then from a career or a creative perspective with what I do with video editing and things like that, and creating videos and inspiring stories, there's this website called lynda.com that I use, and that's where I learned how to do video editing and recording and shooting video and things like that. And the subscription fee is $30 a month, Tim. Yeah. $30 a month for that, or I can go to film school for about 20 grand.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's never been easier to really up your game. What about you?
What are the things that I do? Well, certainly listening to all those types of podcasts, the great minds of the world. There's no such thing anymore as I don't know, because you can instantly become an expert on something pretty quickly, whether it's building something or putting something together or just certain skills you're trying to learn. They're right at your fingertips. I remember I told you at the gym the other day that a lot of people learn by trial and error, but nobody says it has to be your trial and error. It could be somebody else's. You can learn from the mistakes they made at film school.
True.
20 years of film school, they can show you exactly what you need to do.
And that's what they're doing, and they're willing to do it. I mean, they're so gracious, and selfless with creating these videos and these tutorials for us. And in your career, you've shown me some great videos that you created with voiceovers. Talk a little bit about that, what you do at work, that you kind of changed the game regarding the curriculum at work that you share with the entire national sales team.
Absolutely, yeah. I do a lot of little short animated videos that I keep them at 60 seconds, which I think anybody has 60 seconds of time that they can spare, and then able to utilize the internet to hire voiceovers to be able to fill that space in, and you create little nuggets.
It's got to be costing you an arm and a leg.
Not use Fiverr, $5. There's $5. You have professional access to maybe up to 15, depending. But I don't have to go down to a studio. I don't have to go hire somebody for very expensive with things at your fingertips. But as we were talking about, it's never been harder in terms of there's a lot more, way more distractions than ever before. So because everything is at your fingertips, you can be your best very easily, as you mentioned in your article, but it's also more challenging than ever too if you don't filter what you have available to you, because it can be very overwhelming.
Absolutely. One of the things that you and I practice is deep work. And normally in deep work is where you do some time blocking. And Cal Newport is an author who came up with this concept about deep work. And that's where you carve out time. And for that 20, 30, 40 minutes, you shut off all email, phone notifications, and everything, and you just dive into whatever it is that you're working on. You're not procrastinating about it, and you're certainly not permitting distractions into that space. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. They have, while it's never been easier, to eat healthy. I don't know how to eat healthy. There's a ton of free recipes, videos. They'll walk you through step by step how to do it. There's free apps online how to journal your food. I don't know how to do this exercise. Google how to do this exercise, and it will show you how to do it. But the distractions are there. So for me, I have to create a distraction-free space. My phone is off. Notifications, like I said, are turned off. I'm not watching television. I just really create a really great space for myself. What about you with the distractions?
Yeah, well, I know about the deep work, and I think a lot of people have lost the ability to do deep work because of all the distraction, notifications, your phone going off, and everything is all there. And so it's a skill or art that's lost. So I have to do the same thing. Is there, if there's days where I need to put in some serious work, I am eliminating all of those distractions for whether it's a 2-hour, 3-hour, 4-hour block of time, and it's amazing how much work you can get done because every notification goes off. It distracts your mind to read into whether there's something else you have to do later. Right. You put it to the side. Now it takes you a few more minutes to get back into tracking. Right. You lose where you are.
Exactly. And I think they say something about it leaves whatever you looked at that distracted you, whether it's Facebook, posts while you were working, or whether it's an email that came in or a text message. It leaves some residue, on your mental, in your mind, so that when you go back to your work or return back to it, it takes you twice as long to refocus and pick back up. So, like in your office space, how do you do that? Do you close the door? Do you do your most important task before everybody gets there? I mean, what do you do to protect that time?
I have to create an environment that is very work friendly. So that involves not a lot of distractions, paperwork. If you see it there, it's going to distract your mind. Like let's say you have a stack of papers or a stack of things you have to do. It's got to go off to the side. Sometimes I'll close the door, sometimes I don't. It just depends on how much work I need to do. But I've got to create that environment. And then certainly the email is not up. My cell phone is not near me because otherwise you're very tempted to. And it's good to give your mind a break every so often. But if you have to put in some work, you need to carve out, okay, I'm going to do 1 hour. Start with 15, 20, whatever it is you have to start with, and then build in that. So
thank you for sharing that. What are some things that you have noticed in terms of your productivity? Have you found that when you don't have the distractions, you're able to get a task completed in a fraction of the time as if you had all these other things pulling at you?
Oh, absolutely. a lot of times people will be busy with a lot of little, not so deep work, and they're doing they're checking their boxes on a lot of little things that aren't really making a big difference in the big picture of what you need to do. So I will try to figure out what is the most important thing I need to accomplish for the day, and what people like to typically do is do the easiest things first, because you feel good. I checked off this box, it was easy, but in the end of the day, it's not going to make a difference. So I try to figure the game-changing things I'll try to tackle right away when I'm most productive. I'm most productive earlier in the day.
Me too.
Earlier the better. So I can get those knocked out as soon as possible, and then later on in the day, I will check more of the email and go through some of the administrative type things.
Right. And so you're not, like, are you big on social media?
No, I'm not. I know it goes against most of society. But for me, it doesn't take me to where I want to go and achieve my goals. It's a lot of distractions for me, so I choose to stay off of there and very minimally, if at all.
Exactly. So is there anything that you are doing right now in terms of that box or that list of things to where it's never been easier? I mentioned for me, it's my inspiring podcast in the morning, and it's the lynda.com website for me to learn, some skills in terms of video editing and creating film work. What about you? What are you, what makes your list of it's never been easier?
Yeah, thanks. Good question. What I've done a lot of with Never Been Easier is I know what my top priority and things I need to accomplish, and then I'm able to take the Never Been Easier to clear out all the things that aren't important.
Right.
So, for example, things like going to the grocery store.
Yeah, that's
things,
a game changer.
Those are big time wasters, and so I'm able to, like a lot of people do, shop on Amazon or do the Walmart.com, have the order picked up, ready to go. So I'm able I'm literally able to save time. So when the weekend comes, I'm able to spend time with my kids or go work out. I've got more time because you're able to do those other things that take up a lot of time.
So you're not stuck in line at a supermarket or anything like that?
No, never ever again. And I think about, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but the driving to the store, the waiting in line, the waiting in the check line, the picking out the items, no more. There's just not the best use of my time, right, where I can accomplish other things by saving time.
Give me an example how you leverage Uber to get a lot done. Because you gave me this one example, and it was something that I didn't even consider. Like, you had some work on your car done, you had to get kids to practice. And I mean, that created so much more time for you to do some other things.
So it was a situation where I had to get some work on my car done, and my son was at a practice I wanted to go see for football. I had other things going on. Now, that could totally derail you. You could be stuck at a car place, sitting there, waiting for your car to be done, not being productive. But I was able to, it was only a couple miles away. I think it was a $4 or $5 Uber ride. So for $5, I was able to Uber over to my son's practice, get back over to the car, didn't have to bother any friends that drive me. The total round trip was probably $9.50. But I was able to accomplish a lot more, be where I wanted to be, and save time by using technology that's at your fingertips to have your own personal driver. I don't have a chauffeur and a limo, but I got the Uber there ready to pick me up.
So let me get this straight. You could have used that time waiting for your car service to be completed, thumbing through a People magazine that wouldn't have added any value to your life.
That's one way to do it. That's one way, you could have.
But you chose to have this connected time with your son in his practice.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's nothing wrong with thumbing through a People magazine and giving your mind a break, and I'm all for that. I'm in favor of that. But I think a lot of times the questions I ask myself, as I know you do as well, is this going to help me get towards my goal? And one of my goals is to spend good quality time with my kids and be involved with their sports. And so that was a better use of my time to be able to do that and be able to be there than it would have been thumbing through a People magazine. Or I could have chosen, if I wanted to stay there, brought my laptop or listen to some podcast or with my phone and so forth.
Exactly. So that's how you would use the time if you had stayed.
Yeah.
Got you.
Well, and how about you guys? What do you do particularly to help you, with things being easier, or some things you do to keep yourself on top of it?
It's one of the things that I took a page right out of your book, and I do everything early in the morning, and I tackle my most daunting or biggest task for the day. I like doing that, and I just put them in, I just slice them into little pieces, and I take baby steps, and I just start, going there. Let's say I got a big video project to do, or I'm doing some volunteer work at the hospital, and they have a project for me to do. and I don't have a clue. I just start off with a baby step. But I feel for me, I have to make sure that I make it first thing in the morning, and I have to do it when I'm rested. Because for those big tasks that are really demanding, that require you to be at the top of your game, to be clear and to be focused, I have to be rested for that. Otherwise, it's just going to be time that the work product, it won't be up to the standard. And so those are some things I do. Get my sleep, do it early in the morning, no distractions, and I sit down and I say, let's do it. I don't procrastinate. And you're not a procrastinator either, are you?
No, not at all. I get on things right away. I think you brought up a good point where whether it's early in the morning, but it's got to be your peak performance time.
Right, whatever it is for you.
Some people are not morning people, which is fine.
Right.
Maybe it's the afternoon, maybe you're the best at night. Whenever you're most productive is when you need to do those biggest tasks. So if someone needs to get going in the morning and that's not their thing, then when are you most productive? If it's at 2 o'clock, then make that the time to do it. Just being aware of what.
Yeah, and I think for the people that are listening, for our friends who are listening, I think what's really important is you have an honest conversation with yourself. What's more important? What's more important to find a time to where, okay, this is a time where I'm actually awake and I feel good about it, or is it, but there are a ton of distractions. You got family at home, people are asking you a million questions. You might be awake at that time, but you're not able to really have uninterrupted time to work on what's in front of you. Or perhaps you can kind of tweak it and kind of, play around with it and try it on to go a little bit earlier in the day or in the morning, because I found in the morning, nobody's calling me at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's calling me at that time. So I have quiet time, and all the teachers we listen to, these men and women, they do things early, man, because the demands that other people have on them, like their children or their family or work or whatever, they're not there. And so they're able to carve out that time between, and some people it's between 5 and 8 o'clock, other people it's between 8 and 10. I know our good friend Christina, she goes into the office really early in her law practice before anyone else gets there, because as soon as they get there, that's when interruptions come and stuff like that. And she did notice when she was less productive, it was social media. And so she has really become more disciplined in that area too. And I found that in doing so, you will discover, like we have, that it's never been easier. Some people think it's harder. Cut out the distractions. I think you'll discover what we have. What do you think, Tim?
I agree. It's just a matter of being aware, because there is definitely not a shortage of things that want attention in your mind or piece of your mind.
Right.
Being fed to you, just being aware of what it is that you're letting into that space.
Speaking of that, there being this whole fighting and vying for your attention span. One of the podcasts I listened to, they were talking about the social media companies and these advertisers, and they got a room and a team full of people that are watching what we click on the internet, what kind of content we watch, and their job on the social media websites is to keep you on there for as long as possible, so they know what will interest you, what will entice you, and so they keep creeping into your time. By keeping you engaged on those sites, and you ask yourself, hey, listen, is this helping me get to where I want to be? And if it is, stay with it. But if at the end of the day, if it's not helping you be more productive, get ahead, become your best. I wouldn't say get ahead, but to be your best, then I think it's worth revisiting.
I agree. One of the reasons why I'm not a fan of social media, I think it's tremendous. Added tremendous value to people's lives. It connects people in ways that we've never had before. So I think there's tremendous value to it, but it's a matter of managing it. And we and I talk about this all the time, is when people are on social media, a lot of times you're on your couch or wherever, and there's no shortage of someone else that's having a great time on vacation, showing pictures from all kinds of wonderful places, which is nice to connect to and see, but then you start to feel bad about, I'm not on vacation. Or there's the negativity on whether it's a political thing or whatever you're being fed to, and that brings you down also. So there's typically, or let's say you're on vacation, and instead of enjoying your vacation, you're taking photos and posting them, well, you're missing your vacation.
Right.
So I'm okay with taking photos of your vacation, going home, and then when you're home, then if you want to do that, or whatever you want to do. I respect what everyone does, but just realizing being present, that am I present on my vacation, or am I more posting something, more concerned about that than the person I'm with? And I'm always very aware of that. And I respect anybody that utilizes social media in different ways that work for them. It's just a matter of being aware of what you're using it for and how you feel when you're doing it.
Exactly. So I think with that, so how would you tell people, just really quickly, give them one big takeaway of what they can do like right now to take advantage of making life easy?
I think that there's no shortage of things that are available to make your life easy. So this is easier said than done, but I think it's a matter of, and this is from the movie The Minimalist that we talk about, pick out your 4 or 5 things that are most important to you, whether it's artwork or playing basketball, or whether it's working out or spending time with your family, or whatever it is for you. Find out those things and then work to remove everything else that doesn't provide value to those things through using the tools that are available to us today to help you maximize your time. So that's what I really would recommend is that find ways to use those tools to eliminate the things that are not as important to you.
I love it. Yeah. Tim, thank you for that.
Thanks for having me, Keith. Man, I appreciate it.
Always love having you here. Until next time, my friend.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.